Have you ever stepped into an elevator and wondered if you're still the same person when the doors open? Now imagine something far stranger. Imagine a machine. Not just any machine, but a perfect one. You walk into it here in New York, press a glowing green button, and in less than a heartbeat you're standing in London. Same memories, same body, same nervous habit of tapping your fingers when you think. To your family, your dog, even the tax office, nothing has changed. It's you, completely you. But here's the unsettling question that turns this miracle into a nightmare. Did you actually travel, or did you die and get replaced? This isn't just philosophy or science fiction drama. It's a real physics problem, and it begins with a simple mistake we all make about ourselves. We feel solid. We feel like permanent objects moving through the world the way a marble rolls across a floor. But nature doesn't operate on our intuition. When physics digs into what you're made of, the atoms, the electrons, the restless particles inside, it reveals a universe that behaves nothing like common sense suggests. And once you understand how a teleportation machine would actually have to work, stepping into one might feel less like travel and more like signing your own death certificate. To see why, think about what it really means to move something. Suppose you have a newspaper and want to get its content to a friend across the room. One way is obvious. Roll it up and toss it over. The physical object travels. That's transport. But there's another method. You could call your friend, read every word aloud, and they write it onto a fresh sheet of paper. When you're done, the information is there. The pattern is preserved. Yet the original paper never moved. The message traveled, not the object. Now you might protest. You're not ink on paper, you're a living human being. But what are you really? Stand close to a mirror and you see skin, eyes, hair. Look closer and you see cells. Go deeper with better microscopes and you find molecules. Go all the way down and what remains? Atoms. Tiny, restless bits of matter vibrating in complex patterns. And here's the most important scientific idea you can learn. Everything is made of atoms. Little particles in constant motion, pulling toward each other at certain distances and pushing apart when squeezed too tightly. That's the whole universe summarized in a single sentence. But here's the twist that makes teleportation so unsettling. An atom is just an atom. The electron helping your brain process this sentence is indistinguishable from one inside a brick or floating in a drop of water. They don't carry labels or identities. There's no original electron versus a replacement. Physics treats them as perfectly interchangeable. The same goes for carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, all the elements that make you up. So if teleportation were possible, the simplest method wouldn't be moving your atoms at all. That would be like throwing the newspaper. The efficient method would be to scan you. Every atom's position, every motion, every relationship. Capture the full pattern, the blueprint of you, and send that information elsewhere. Then, in London, a machine could take a supply of ordinary atoms and arrange them precisely to match that blueprint. Not approximately, exactly. The person who steps out would remember your life, your childhood phone number, your favorite bad joke. From every observable angle, they would be you. Because biology tells us structure determines function. If the brain is rebuilt in the same pattern, the thoughts and personality follow. But now comes the uncomfortable part. What happens to the original you back in New York? If you're still standing there after the copy appears in London, then there are two of you. And if someone tells the New York version, "Congratulations, you made it to London," you'd think they'd lost their mind. You never went anywhere. You never left the room. So for teleportation to work the way we imagine it, as real travel, there's only one solution. The original has to be destroyed, completely dismantled, atom by atom. So only one version remains. And at that point, we have to ask the question we've been avoiding. Does that sound like transportation? Or does that sound like something far darker? But the story doesn't stop there, because once you start thinking about identity as a pattern instead of a pile of atoms, an even stranger question appears. If copying the pattern works once, why stop at one copy? If the machine can build you in London, it could just as easily build another in Tokyo, another in Paris, another anywhere information can be sent. Suddenly, there isn't just one continuation of you. There are many. Imagine a room filled with identical versions of you, each assembled from fresh atoms but sharing the same memories, the same personality, the same sense of self. Every one of them remembers growing up in your house, learning the same lessons, making the same mistakes. Ask them who the real one is, and they'll all answer in unison, I am. From the standpoint of physics, they're all correct. Each one carries the same informational pattern that defined you moments before the duplication. But from your personal perspective, something feels off. You experience the world from behind one pair of eyes, not dozens. Your awareness feels localized, tied to this particular body, this particular stream of perception. You don't feel distributed across copies, even if they share your memories. This suggests that identity isn't just about information floating abstractly in space. It's tied to a specific physical instance of that information. This exact collection of particles, here and now. If that's true, then destroying one instance and rebuilding another elsewhere doesn't preserve your experience. It ends one thread and starts another that merely resembles it. A helpful way to picture this is to think about time itself. We often imagine time flowing like a river, carrying us from past to future in a smooth line. You feel like the same person you were a few seconds ago because your memories connect those moments into a continuous story. But physics describes time differently. Imagine drawing a graph with space on one axis and time on the other. Every moment of your life traces a line through that graph, what physicists call a world line. Even if you sit perfectly still, you're still moving through time, and that motion draws a path upward through the diagram. Now picture slicing that diagram into thin horizontal layers like cutting a loaf of bread. Each slice represents the universe at a single instant, a frozen snapshot of every particle's position and motion. The laws of physics connect each slice to the next. The arrangement of atoms in one moment determines how they evolve into the next. This chain of cause and effect is what gives us the sense of continuity, but relativity complicates things. According to Einstein's theory, there's no single universal now. Different observers moving at different speeds slice space-time at different angles. One person's present might overlap with another's past or future. Instead of a river, space-time starts to look like a solid block, a four-dimensional structure where past, present, and future all coexist. In that picture, you're not just a point traveling through time. You're more like a long, stretched-out shape, a timeline of yourself extending from birth to death. The child version of you, the present you, and the older you all exist as different sections of that extended structure. Teleportation, in this framework, does something radical. Instead of continuing your world line smoothly through space-time, it cuts it off in one location and starts a new one somewhere else. There's a break in the path, a discontinuity in the chain of physical cause and effect that normally links one moment of your existence to the next. The question then becomes unavoidable. Does consciousness bridge that gap, or does it end when the chain is broken? Physics, at least for now, doesn't have an answer. It can describe how atoms move, how energy flows, how information transforms, but it can't yet explain why certain arrangements of matter produce subjective experience, the sense of being someone looking out at the world. That inner perspective, the feeling of I, remains one of the deepest mysteries in science. And teleportation forces us to confront that mystery head-on. If the process breaks the physical continuity that connects one moment of your life to the next, then even a perfect copy might not truly be you. It would be someone new, starting their own timeline at the instant of creation, even if they remember every second of yours. And that realization pushes us into one of the strangest places science can take us, the boundary between physics and experience. Because when we talk about identity, we're not just talking about atoms or information. We're talking about what it feels like to exist. A single atom doesn't feel like anything. Two atoms don't either. Even 1,000 atoms still behave like simple machinery. But put roughly 10 to the power of 23 atoms together in the precise arrangement of a human brain, and suddenly the system wakes up and says, I am here. That jump from matter to awareness is extraordinary. Physics can map the structure. Chemistry can explain the reactions. Biology can chart the signals firing across neurons, yet none of those descriptions fully explain why those processes are accompanied by experience, why there is something it feels like to be you at all. Teleportation doesn't just challenge our engineering skills, it challenges our understanding of consciousness itself. Now, let's return to the idea that you are fundamentally a pattern. If that's true, then in principle the pattern could be reproduced again and again. If the machine doesn't destroy the original, it could generate multiple copies. 100 versions of you could walk out of 100 chambers, each convinced they're the authentic continuation. From the outside, there's no test that could distinguish them. Each one would answer personal questions the same way, laugh at the same memories, react with the same habits. From the inside, though, each copy would feel like the sole center of awareness. Each would feel located behind their own eyes, anchored to their own stream of perception. None would feel shared. That tells us something important. Consciousness appears to be tied not just to the information itself, but to the specific physical instance carrying that information. It's like a radio tuned to a station. The music comes from the signal, but it only plays through the particular device receiving it. Smash that radio and build another identical one, and you may hear the same song again, but it's still a different machine playing it. Teleportation, then, looks less like moving a person and more like destroying one receiver and building another tune to the same broadcast. The signal may continue, but the original device is gone. So, where does that leave us? It leaves us with a humbling picture of what we really are. Not fixed objects, not permanent structures, more like ongoing processes, patterns sustained by continuous change. Think about a candle flame. It has a recognizable shape, a steady glow, something you can point to and call a flame. But the atoms inside it are constantly being replaced. Fuel flows in, combustion happens, gases flow out. The flame isn't a thing. It's an event, a reaction sustained moment by moment. You are very much like that flame. Matter flows through your body, energy pulses through your brain, information cycles through your nervous system. Your identity isn't in the particles themselves, but in the ongoing process that keeps them organized in a particular way. Life is less like a statue and more like a whirlpool, stable in form, yet constantly renewed in substance. Teleportation interrupts that process. It attempts to extinguish the flame here and ignite another one somewhere else using the same design. From the outside, the new flame looks identical. It burns with the same color and intensity. But the original combustion ended. The continuity was broken. This is why teleportation provokes such unease. It forces us to confront the possibility that continuity, the uninterrupted chain linking one moment of your experience to the next, might be the very thing that makes you you. And if that chain snaps even briefly, what continues afterward may only resemble you rather than truly be you. This idea reshapes how we think about life itself. We tend to imagine ourselves as stable objects moving through time, but the truth looks much closer to a flowing process. Every second, chemical reactions ripple through your body, neurons fire in shifting patterns, and particles enter and leave your system. The only reason you feel continuous is that these changes happen gradually, preserving the structure that carries your memories and personality forward. Nature, in other words, already performs a slow version of teleportation. You are constantly replacing the atoms that make you up. The oxygen you inhale becomes part of your blood. The food you eat becomes part of your cells, and the matter you shed returns to the world. Yet the process is smooth enough that your sense of self never notices the swap. The pattern remains intact, and so your identity appears unbroken. A teleportation machine, however, doesn't swap atoms slowly. It interrupts the process entirely. It halts the flow and attempts to reconstruct it elsewhere. Instead of a gradual transformation, it introduces a sudden break. And that break is what makes the difference between natural change and artificial replacement. Think about reading a story. If you turn the pages one by one, the narrative flows. Each moment connects to the last, and the plot makes sense. But if you tear the book in half and try to print a fresh copy from memory, You might recreate the same words, yet the original continuity of reading was interrupted. The reader who stopped at the tear never experienced the rest of the story, even if another reader later picks it up and continues from the same sentence. Teleportation raises the same issue. The version of you in London might feel like the story never paused, but the version in New York experienced the ending right there in the machine. From the outside, it looks seamless. From the inside, it may not be. This leads to a deeper realization about what we value in our existence. We often assume survival means preserving our information, our memories, our personality, our knowledge. But perhaps survival is really about preserving the chain of experience, the uninterrupted flow from one moment of awareness to the next. If that's the case, then even a perfect duplicate doesn't guarantee your survival. It only guarantees that someone very much like you continues. This isn't just a technical question for physicists. It touches the way we think about life choices, risk, and the future of technology. If teleportation ever becomes possible, society will have to decide how to treat it. Would stepping into the machine count as travel, or as a kind of legally sanctioned replacement? Would the copy inherit your rights, your responsibilities, your relationships? From a practical standpoint, the world might accept it without hesitation. After all, the person who emerges would function exactly as you did. But the personal question would remain. Would you be willing to step inside, knowing the process requires the original version of you to vanish? Some people might see it as a small price for instant travel. Others might view it as a gamble with the only consciousness they will ever experience. This tension reveals something beautiful about being human. We care deeply about continuity. We value the unbroken thread connecting our past, present, and future selves. It's why memories matter, why personal growth feels meaningful, why we fear sudden endings. Continuity is what gives our lives narrative shape. Without it, identity becomes a series of disconnected snapshots rather than a living story. Teleportation challenges that narrative. It offers speed and convenience at the cost of the very continuity that makes our experience feel real. And in doing so, it forces us to ask whether progress should always be measured by efficiency, or whether some aspects of existence are worth preserving simply because they make us who we are. Because when you strip everything else away, what we're really talking about isn't just technology, it's the nature of being human. We like to imagine ourselves as solid and permanent, yet science keeps revealing how temporary and delicate we really are. We're not statues carved from stone. We're closer to a flame, a process sustained by energy, matter, and information flowing through us every second. A flame looks stable when you watch it, but the particles inside it are constantly changing. Fuel rises, reacts, and drifts away as gas. The shape persists even though the material never stays the same. Your body works the same way. Atoms come and go, cells live and die, thoughts appear and fade. What stays consistent is the pattern, the organization that keeps the process going. Teleportation tries to interrupt that process. It proposes to extinguish the flame in one place and ignite a new one somewhere else using the same blueprint. To everyone watching, the new flame appears identical. It burns with the same brightness and form. But the original combustion ended, and a new one began. So the real question becomes simple, even if the answer isn't. Is identity about the pattern alone, or about the uninterrupted continuation of that pattern through time? If continuity is what matters, then teleportation isn't travel at all, it's replacement. If information alone defines us, then perhaps stepping into the machine is no different from taking a long step across a room. Physics doesn't yet settle this debate. It can describe the motion of atoms, the flow of energy, the structure of space and time. But it cannot fully explain why certain arrangements of matter produce awareness, or why that awareness feels continuous from one moment to the next. That mystery sits at the center of everything we are. And maybe that's where the real wonder lies. We're already travelers through time, moving forward at 1 second per second. We're already exchanging atoms with the world, rebuilding ourselves piece by piece without losing the thread of who we are. Nature performs its slow, careful version of change, preserving continuity while allowing transformation. It gives us the illusion of solidity while everything beneath the surface flows. Perhaps that illusion is a gift. It lets us build stories, relationships, memories, and meaning. It lets us wake up each morning feeling like the same person who went to sleep the night before. Without that continuity, life might feel less like a journey and more like a sequence of disconnected moments. So, would I step into the teleportation box? I've always believed curiosity drives discovery. Asking bold questions is how science moves forward. But on this one, I think I'd choose the slower road. I'd rather let my path through space and time unfold naturally, with each moment connected to the last. Not because technology isn't amazing, but because continuity, that fragile, invisible thread, might be the most important thing we have. The universe is already astonishing without shortcuts. We're made of ancient atoms born in stars, arranged into patterns that can think, wonder, and ask questions about their own existence. That alone is extraordinary. Maybe we don't need to outsmart the rules of nature to appreciate how remarkable it is simply to be here. So the next time you look in the mirror, remember this. You're not just the face you see. You're the pattern behind it. You're the wave moving through matter. The process unfolding in time, the only version of you that experiences the world from this exact point of view. And that might be the most incredible phenomenon in the entire universe.